So yeah, hopefully you're all doing well and staying warm out there today. Thank you so much for joining us for Business of Art on taking your work to the next level. We're going to go ahead and record. Actually, I think you may have already received a prompt to do so. Thank you, Faye. My name is Roman, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Vice President of the Board of Directors for this wonderful community arts organization, Wild Goose Creative. And I'm filling in for Executive Director Lydia Simon today, and also joined by Wild Goose Operations Coordinator Faye Drews. Hey, Faye.
Hi, everyone.
So really excited about today's chat with our esteemed panelists. But first, I'd like to introduce you to our wonderful moderator for this afternoon. It's Molly Seguin. Hey, Molly.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, and thanks everyone for being here today. Just because you all are aware, this meeting is being recorded, and Melissa here is going to kick things off here shortly. The one thing I'd let you know is that if you have questions as we go along, please add them to the chat, or you can message Roman and I privately if you don't want your name included with the question. And if we have time at the end, we will go ahead and ask them. If we don't have time at the end, Melissa will, I'm sure, give us ways to follow her on social media and ways that we can reach out to her to get your questions answered. Just some other general housekeeping rules. Please keep yourself muted while you're on the call, just so we don't get kickback from the recording. And at the end, then we'll share some updates from Wild Goose Creative. So thanks everyone for adding their information to the chat, introducing themselves. We appreciate it. As you all know, or if you're new here, I actually don't introduce our speakers. I like our speakers to introduce themselves. So Melissa, I'm going to kick things off to you, and you are free to start whenever.
Great, thank you. Hi everybody. I don't know if you guys can see me, but this is Melissa. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm really excited to talk to you about a lot of stuff. It's going to be very brief and very much an overview of many topics that you guys can feel free to message me on Instagram about as you go, because it can be really overwhelming and complicated, but really not. So it's just what we're going to talk about just becomes part of your practice. So I'm born in Columbus, Ohio, and I've lived here most of my life.
Melissa, it looks like we've lost your audio. I don't know if Roman or anyone at Wild Goose has a access end to get that
I lived in
back.
Kansas City for a while.
Oh, wait, actually.
And I've been making art for a really long time. I've got a permanent piece up at the Columbus Museum of Art, and I've had exhibitions also internationally. I've done a good amount of time teaching at different universities. And when we get to so should we go ahead and start with that? You guys let me know if you can see the PowerPoint. I'm not sure if you guys are fading. Strange. Okay, can you guys see PowerPoint? Because I can't see the screen.
Yeah, we can see it, and it seems like your voice is coming in a little bit clearer this time, or at this point. Maybe if you'd like, you can turn off your camera, and that could help with it. I can hear you now pretty well.
Okay, can you still see then? Okay, great. So I'm going to go ahead and continue. Here's a little glimpse of my work. I only have a few slides. You can see everything on Instagram, or you can see, or go to my website to see more what I do. I balance between painting, sculpture, and video. This is a recent installation that I have up at Hammond Harping Galleries. This is a detail of that work. You can see here that I've got some installation. Here are some of my smaller works. These are they're made out of They're made out of a process called Scagliola, and they're plaster. They're small, like 15 inches. Here's the installation at the museum. And here's installation I did at my house at the beginning of COVID. And I also make some smaller works. And I also make video. So that's a quick overview of my practice. But as a working artist and trying to always expand what I do, I've done a lot of workshops with communities in the past. It's really helped me to kind of push my projects into a larger scale and contact and kind of establish contact with more people. I've also curated many exhibitions. This is a project that I started called Rooms to Let. And this really got me connected with a lot of other artists from all around the area. I also have curated exhibitions with friends. This was a show called Public Lighting, and it was all light-based works held in a dark warehouse. We got the warehouse donated. And I was also a member of Mint Collective, and with that group, we were able to create an exhibition that went to spring break in New York. And I've also joined an art band with some friends, and because we had that group, we were able to start a radio program that then went on to be kind of housed in some different platforms and it has really expanded our exhibition possibilities. So that was me, and what I really want to get down to is talking to you about expanding your practice. Can someone let me know that you guys are all with me still?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah, sounds great.
Because I will
Doing
just
great.
talk and talk. Okay, so here's the, so I just really want you to keep in mind that this is gradual and it takes time, just like anything. And think about it as a life lived and not a race. But here are some ways that you can start to make these bigger connections outside of your community. Here's an overview. These are the different things that you can do. We're going to get back to this page. So basically, to expand what you do, you're going to want to start to collect a database of galleries that look like they would carry your work. Now, if you cannot read the text on here, you're going to get a PDF of all of this. This whole PowerPoint is a PDF form is going to be sent to you in your email. So don't try to start writing everything down. You're going to get all this information, but you can write anything I say ad hoc. So galleries, if you have work that sells and is a gallery type of work, or if your practice can be divvied up into objects or things that are sellable, a gallery is good fit for you. There's always going to be some sales involved with a gallery. So even if it's a very conceptual practice that you have, a gallery can help you. They're there to help you get your art out there and get your work into different cities. It's a whole big kind of complicated thing to do, but like really involves like being specific about what galleries you like and tracking them and starting to look at the artists that they carry and try to make contact with them. You can reach people over Instagram, and you can follow the gallery and leave comments on their page and go visit those galleries. If there's a city that you want to show in, you're going to want to find the galleries in that city that look like a good match for you. It's really important that you have a consistent body of work for this, so they can rely that you're going to make the same kind of work that you make when you're kind of sending them a packet, or if you're if they're checking out your Instagram, you want to be consistent. So you can also follow curators. You can track and follow them. If there's a show that you like that a curator was involved in, you can track that curator and see what they do. Looking for artists to include in shows. So with anything in the art world, it's about supporting each other. And so if they see you supporting them, and if you send them a message or just follow what they're doing, they're gonna take notice of you. And it helps if your work is something that they may be interested in. So that's like galleries. If you want to find a gallery outside of the city. Curators are national situations, so you can follow a curator from anywhere. And then if you just in general, you should connect to your community, which includes going to the shows and meeting artists, supporting and posting, and really letting people know how you feel about their work and how you feel about their programming, and they will remember you. It also takes time to do this, but if you want to get a show in New York, you're going to need to go to New York, and you're going to need to follow very specific people and very specific art circles there. And you can kind of start to just befriend people, and they become part of your community. It takes time, but it really does help. It's possible to do from Columbus, Ohio. Okay, other ways to expand your practice outside of Columbus, Ohio is to write about artists that you like. So let's say there's an artist you like and they're in a gallery that you really that you respect and that you would love to be involved with. You can write about that person's work. You can do a blog or a podcast, really any way to kind of make that connection. Now this is good if you're good at writing. If you're not so good at writing, find some other ways. But that's a good way to reach out. And also, these are not really in any particular order, but also you've got to have a really good artist statement. You need to have a 1 sentence, a 1 paragraph, and a 3 paragraph version. You also have to be ready at any time for that question that's going to be coming that is what is your work about? And you have to say it in 1 sentence. If you get to 2 sentences on that, people have lost, they've lost, they just don't follow it. You just have to say it in 1 sentence. And that's a mistake I've seen a lot of people make. And I've made it myself, you just never know when that question is going to hit you, and you really got to be ready to say something very specific. And also something that can lead them to ask you a second question, so you can have a dialogue about your work with someone. This is important if you see a curator at the Wexner Center, if you just happen to stand next to a very famous artist like at the Wexner Center, or if you go see a show and you see someone, someone's going to ask you that, and you got to really be ready. So as I said before about being a collective and being in a group, that's a really good way to expand your projects and to expand what you do. There are a lot of art centers that accept curatorial proposals, and you can do this as a collective. You can also do it as yourself, but you can't curate yourself into your own show. It just doesn't really work that way on bigger levels. But if you are a collective, you can curate shows in that way. It makes connections across the US. You can get your work into some different places. You can create your own exhibitions here in Columbus that way, that are small, medium, large. It's a very good practice to do, because you can't expect that there's going to be these shows just waiting for you. And if your work is unconventional, or if you know a group of people who make a certain kind of work, you might as well just get together and do studio visits with each other and try to think up an exhibition to have together. And then you just propose it in these places that you want your work to be shown. And that just grows. It just grows as you go with that. Artist residencies. So this is really a great one. I am a mother, and I can only do a 1-month residency, basically right now. But I've been able to squeeze a few in, and very often I cannot do a residency. But when I did do the residencies, I met a lot of artists in other cities, a lot of New York artists, a lot of artists in LA, and we have kept in touch, and we help each other. And that is the best way to expand your network. Yes, you're there to make art, but it is 50% networking. And networking is a stupid word, but building community. You just think of it that way. So what you want to do is find the residencies that are free, because they usually have a better reputation, because they have gotten the funds themselves to pay for you to go.
If you are paying for residency, you have to make sure it is worth it. So some residencies that cost money are really worth it, like Skowhegan. It's a very expensive residency, but it really puts you on the map. But it's like 3 months long. I've never been able to do that, but it's worth, that one's worth it typically, I would say. And you got to do some research. I have some links for you guys for this. Some residencies are 2 weeks long. Some residencies are 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks long. A typical one, you can find a lot of residencies that are a month long. And if you have a full-time job, you can kind of work, they can work with your schedule as to when you can go on this residency. But even if you can only do a week or a 2 week long residency, I feel like they're worth it. They also are really great on your CV. Also, another thing that'll help you expand is to really understand where your artwork lies in terms of what art world you are in. So if you're in the craft, if you feel like your work is like conceptual, but it crosses into craft, you're going to want to go down both paths, because this way you'll get the most support. So because some grants and some residencies are medium specific, it really helps to really know that art world and find your people. And then it makes it easier to find the galleries that way if you know your art world, and really look at your artwork realistically for what it is. Just like when you write an artist statement, you really want to look at, you want to look at that art, look at your artwork abstractly outside of your own intention and really think about, like, what is it actually? And that's what the work actually is. A lot of times people have a big intention about their work, but is that what the work actually is? And that's something that is, it's good to suss, because you're gonna find more, an easier direction once you come into that reality of what your work actually is. And if you realize your work isn't what you thought it was, then you're gonna have to change your work a little bit, if that's more important. You can ask me questions about that later if that's confusing. So as you scale up, you're going to have a database for your art. You need to know what you have, all of the titles and mediums and size of the location, who has bought the piece, who, is it in your studio, where is it located, prices. If you have a gallery, you'll need prices. I let my gallery tell me what to charge for my work, because they know what they can get. That's what's kind of handy about galleries, is they kind of pop your price up into where it should be in a way so that you can make a living wage. I mean, not to say that you're selling a ton of work, but it all depends on a lot of factors. But Google spreadsheets are great to make a database. There are some online programs, but they cost money, and why not just do it for free on Google Sheets? So you can ask more questions about how to do that later if you want. Also, it is really important to go out and see that artwork in person, and go to those cities that you're interested in having your work in. And then when you go see that artwork, just notice what you notice, take notes, and check out and follow the curators. This is a good way to meet people, is to see artwork in the real. And you've got to go see lectures and artist talks. Even if they're on Zoom, it's so valuable when you run into that person just randomly at a show, like 5 years down the road, and you can say, oh, I really do remember your artist talk, and I love your work. And then they know that you're not just like kissing ass, you're invested in their work, and then they will be reinvested in you, and that's a community space that you want to be in. Okay, so grants. So we're getting towards the end here. So grants you're going to want to research grants and create a database of grants and residencies with their due dates listed. And there are a wide range of grants for all sorts of people. They're due at all different times of the year. if you think like, I don't have time to write a grant, you're wrong. So basically what I'm going to say is like, you're an artist, you need to write an artist statement. You need to have your art in order, and you need to know what you're doing and what your work is doing. So writing a grant makes you do that stuff. So if you're a deadline person, you need a deadline, write a grant, because it's going to make you write a better artist statement. It's going to make you organize your artwork, and it's going to make you get more connected to what you're doing. If you get that grant or not, it doesn't really matter, because the people who jury that grant are seeing your work, and typically they're curators. And I've known people that got shows, they didn't get the grant, but they got a show out of applying for a grant. And that goes for applying for exhibitions. So just do it and make it part of your practice, and it's a good part of your practice. And just know that you're gonna, like, for every 100 things you apply to, you'll probably get 20 or maybe 10, but all of that is just you being in conversation with what your work is doing. And keep in mind that, like, rejection is not a rejection, it's a not yet. And I heard this from a friend of mine who was a juror on residencies that she knew, and then other people had told me that, like, very often the same people are applying for the bigger residencies, like the really nice ones and the bigger grants. These people apply for these things over and over and are seen by the jurors over and over. And the juror is like learning more and more each time about this artist's work, and then gives them the grant. So let's say you apply once and this other person applied like 5 times. They're going to really know the person applying 5 times. You're very likely going to give it to that person if your work is comparable, if both of your works are comparable. Pay to play spaces where you pay for the exhibition is not worth it. And ask me more later. Curated shows with call fees. You really got to research these. If the fee is $50, I would say don't do it. If it's $20, if it's a small art space that's really edgy and cool, do it, because your money's supporting them. Be really careful about these, very careful, and ask around. You can just be dumping money into a hole with those. If you do get in a curated show in a town that you like, then you can invite a gallerist to come see your work. Okay, grad school. This is, I think, our last page, and then I'm gonna take your questions. Grad school, I went to grad school when I think I was like 45. And it was worth it for me, very much so. And it let me teach for 10 years after that. Wait, I went when I was 42. So I was 42. That's a big subject. I recommend it. You have to be willing to let people push you, and you got to be ready for your work to go in a new direction. You're going to meet a lot of people that you'll keep friends with for a long time. If you want to go to New York, you know, Yale, RISD, those schools are good to try. I can't remember what it's called, but this is a really big subject. So you can hit me up later too about this, but some are very expensive and some are free. OSU is free, fully funded, and you get to teach and you get a stipend. That's like for the win. And then if there's a lot of reasons if you go to grad school, this is a big subject, so we can talk about this later, but okay, yeah. So New York City, you could also say this goes for LA or Chicago, or if there's a big city, New York really, for us, it's the closest. If you want to get a show in New York, you got to go there. Typically in New York, young artists move there, and they know the gallerists when the gallery is a teeny tiny little gallery, and they come up together. And that's how a lot of these artists have become established in their gallery. Or they go to like Yale or RISD and they get noticed by a big gallery and picked up. All that involves luck and randomness. If you want to show in New York and you want someone to notice your work, you know, I've known people that got a huge group of people together to rent a space in New York. And you can get a studio space in New York for like $800, $1,000. I think there's even tiny ones that are less money. And you don't necessarily use the studio as a studio, but you use the studio to show your work to galleries. And you invite galleries to come to do a studio visit. You invite artists to do a studio visit if you've come to be friendly with them, or if you meet people on residency. Having the work there in the city is an advantage. And also going to shows is an advantage. So you kind of got to go there and be there. Yeah, and Instagram really helps. So I think everyone should just get Instagram and just don't take anything personally on there. Just post your stuff and get off of it. Okay, so all of this is about, you know, meeting and expanding out into the world, into a national platform. And to be on a national platform, you just need to make bigger work. And I'm not talking about you have to go from a 1 foot piece square to 8 foot square piece. You can do that if that works for you, or if you do small works and you do a massive installation, if that is what you can see yourself taking on, or it's that you make larger, more expansive series of work, so you have more multiples on your series. It really helps to have some very big pieces, big installations to show, to get in the eye of curators and art centers. It's something that they need to see. And you also need that big work to sell the medium-sized work. You need the medium-sized work to sell the small work. So scaling up is something to think about. And if that sounds kind of overwhelming, you're going to want to look at artists who have done it, and you'll see that it's really not that overwhelming. And there are ways to do it that are financially viable. It just takes a lot of creativity and, you know, I can talk about that more too, but it does help to make that big work. So you guys are going to get this PDF. Here's a list of all these different links that I have for you. The residency, down at the residency grant area, there are some residencies, when I say unvetted, it means it's just every residency, good and bad. And you just have to take it with a grain of salt. Creative Capital will give you open calls and grants that are vetted. So they curated it and picked good ones. Up at the top, pro practice tips. I just came across this website. It looked pretty good. It was like businessy art stuff. You have to go to Everest Pipkin's Big Artist Opportunity List. That is gold. It's ridiculous. And then Everest Pipkin's Hot Art Tips, solid gold. Just download these, save them, and just go through it. It's a massive amount of information. You're going to want to make your own database from this because it's just so much, but it's going to tell you everything. If you feel like you want to get in on and meet new people right now, you can join the New York Crit Club, which I've done a couple classes with them. Awesome. Love them. They're fabulous people. Or you could do Workshop. It's VVRK. Well, there's the link. And she's also awesome. Classes and creates a community. And I don't know much about School of Alternative, but I know people that have done it and loved it. I also have podcasts here that I like, and I had to get Grammarly on my computer. Anyone who's dyslexic, that has helped me so much. Grammarly is 100% worth it. Writing program, fixes all your mistakes. I made my website with Squarespace, and then of course GCAC and OAC. So that's it. Here's the list of what we just talked about. I know it's like ridiculous whirlwind, but I think it's a good time now to answer questions. So that way we can get into specific things or things that I missed that you may be into.
Great, thanks so much. I appreciate your presentation. I'm going to go ahead and read some questions that we received in our chat.
Great.
And I'm going to read them verbatim so
Okay.
You can accurately answer them to the best of your ability. Great. So our first question is, from your point of view, what is the best way for a gallery to attract great artists for their annual call. What do you look for as an artist? What's appealing? What helps you decide that it is a good fit for your work? What are barriers that prevent you from applying?
Okay, so it sounds like you're asking to what is the best fit when you're looking for open calls for yourself, I'm guessing is what you're asking.
That's what the participant was asking. Yes.
Okay, look at what they've shown, follow them on Instagram, and you can tell if it's a sham or not in a way from doing that a lot. Like if you want a list, I could give you a list like Tiger Strikes Asteroid, Ortega y Gasset Gallery. And I know I didn't put these in the PDF, but if you follow me, I also follow me on Instagram, and I repost the ones that I think are good a lot in my stories. You want to look at the previous program, who they've exhibited in the past. You want to really make sure they're not asking for any additional money, and that they have been around a couple years at least, so you know that you're getting your artwork back. I've sent work before to things and didn't get my work back. So you just have to make sure they have a reputation. I hope that helped. And then you can see what they're what they're looking for, because usually these calls are specific to the aesthetic of what they are into. So if you see artwork that they've shown before that and your work goes with it, it's likely that they will like your work. Whereas like a different call, like a residency, they're juried sometimes by different groups of people, but a collective is usually the same people.
Great, thank you so much.
Mhm.
Our next question is, the writer states, my question is, what are some tips for starting as a group? We have 5 members in an art space, but what are some tips to operate as a group?
Okay, that's exciting. Congratulations. I would say we'll have regular studio visits with each other, write a little manifesto, know what you want to do with your group. The group can be great. You can share resources, and you can, like, one person can make a database of residencies. One person can look for grants. That's what's so great about a collective. Any kind of space that you have, it could be like someone's inside of someone's car. It could be like the inside someone's bedroom. Start to think about what artists you want to support and have exhibitions of other artists. So yeah, like manifesto, start showing other people's work collectively to find, there are residencies you can do as a collective. There are, and then find all of the other collectives that you can. And there's collectives everywhere. Oh, there's a database of them. Ooh, what's it called? Oh gosh. Well, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but you can find collectives. There's they're all over. So you want to find what they're doing too, and then reach out and message them, or just like follow them, and they'll usually follow you back, and then you'll find all these other collectives. So it's really about what your mission is and what your manifesto is and what you want to do with your collective, aside from like helping each other. It helps to have a specific goal in mind, like we want to show this kind of art, or so but that's exciting, and I hope that I can see what you guys end up doing. Sounds cool.
Great. And then we have one other question. I'm
Okay.
just going to read it verbatim.
Okay.
What are some effective ways you think artists can market and grow visibility towards their work in 2022, whether it is gallery or within other networking, marketing, etc.?
Okay, effective ways artists can market their work. I would say 2022. Well, you're gonna have to hit Instagram. I think it depends on what kind of work you have. If I have been going over my database of residencies and open calls and grants, and there's a lot of stuff open right now that is, so if also Greater Columbus Arts Council is accepting grant applications for materials. That is a guarantee. I just would like to tell everyone here, you will get that grant. if you follow the directions. I just personally know that. You can get, I think it's up to like 1,200 or something like that. So write that grant. Again, it's going to help you practice your writing. Be specific about what you want to get, buy it, save your receipts, and turn it back in. Maybe make a note to like get out there and work in the community and see shows, but also work on your Instagram to get your name out. Get the grants and maybe apply to some shows. Look for different exhibition opportunities. It's really like you have to do a balance between applying for things and working in your studio. And for me, it's you know, there's weeks when I don't feel like working in the studio and I just do all of my computer work. And I think because we're back in the pandemic, you know, it might be a little slow and it's freezing cold out. So it's hard, it's slow, like to get connections now, but like definitely show up to shows, and it's just it's a slow build, but you just slowly build your progress. And then if you're an artist that makes objects, like smaller objects to sell, I mean, I think it's a great time. People are stuck at home and people are buying things for their homes. So it's a really good time to just hit the social medias and try to sell work that way. It's really good I've seen a lot of people make a lot of money selling their work that way. My work doesn't sell that way, but if you have work that can go in that direction, just hit it.
All right, we had another question come through.
Okay.
Do you have any resources to help with writing artist statements?
Oh God. Well, they are so hard, aren't they? They're so hard. I just remember. I would say, so that workshop, it's 2 V's. She has a little workshop on writing artist statements. That's such a big subject. It's very hard. I find it hard to this day. You want to read other artists' statements, who are artists you like, and then really analyze and deconstruct what they're actually saying. It's harder to find very famous artist statements because they don't have to say them anymore. But if you find like mid-career artists or like artists in their 30s, 40s, I don't know, like you'll be able to find something that they've written about their work. And you'll know a good one when you read it, and then just take that artist statement and break it down. And how does it work? And how does it flow? And what are they actually saying? And just copy, like, don't copy it, but like make yours that same flow. If that's what you like, how it's made, then think how I would say the same way about my work. Like, how would I say that? So I've seen artist statements that were a little bit more poetic and didn't really say, didn't claim much about the artwork, but really focused on a poetics. I've heard, and those are good if they don't sound like bullshit. So you have to just cut out the bullshit in your artist statement. Nobody likes it. It fools no one. Everyone can hear it. If it's like art speak, it's people know. So you just gotta work on simplicity, really what is the work doing? What is the red doing? What is the scale doing? Like, what are the figures and why are they that way? And just really try to keep it where it's at. So number one, read a bunch of artist statements. Try to find some that you like. If you apply to the Greater Columbus Arts Council individual artist grant and the Ohio Arts Council one, try to see if you can get off work or whatever to go and watch the jury process, because you'll hear a lot of artist statements and you can really hear what is working and what's not working. That helped me early on.
Thank you. And it looks like Liz and Fred have put information in the chat in case anybody doesn't have the chat popped up about GCAC's. They have a webinar tomorrow for artists to learn the rules regarding their grant process, which I know is going to be super helpful. So before I turn it back over to Roman for some closing announcements. Oh, Fred has one more question. How do you know when the jury process is?
For GCAC?
I'm going to let Fred
Or-
expand on that.
Okay.
Yes, for GCAC.
They, the grant for the regular material grant, I believe maybe every month. It's like they give that out throughout the year. So if you're not ready, you just have to be ready at the beginning of the month to get that grant in. Juries for other grants, bigger grants, are usually listed on, like the jury date is usually listed on the website. But if you apply for the GCAC grant, I believe they let you know when it's happening. And the Ohio Arts Council grant, because they divide it between mediums. So like the jurying for like painting is one day, and then the next day will be the jurying for like all the other ones. It is so eye-opening, and I really think people should go, because also you can really, like, you're getting, like, someone's rejecting your work and you're sitting there and you see it happen and you realize, like, oh, that's just their taste, and you can tell because they don't. So you're like, you it's not like all of the art world has rejected me. It's like these two people, it's not what they like, and then you feel a little bit better about it. I really did when I sat there and, you hear the juror like, no, I'm not into this. And you're like, okay, well, that's just that person. And when you don't go, it feels like all of the art world has rejected you. So it's good to go and know that it's just like two people, and you're like, there are a million people and billions of people. So. Yes.
Melissa, I have a question. You mentioned a number of times the importance of Instagram throughout your presentation. What are some of your personal do's and don'ts on Instagram, and how do you think it's evolved the art world since its kind of inception into our culture?
Yeah, it's been very important in the art world. I've known people that have gotten major shows from Instagram and met major gallerists through Instagram. And I personally sold a piece, like a $5,000 piece on Instagram alone. Like, that's just ridiculous. That pays for all the time I've put into it. So don't post too much. Keep your Instagram feed, like the main page, mostly art. Because now, instead of going to people will go to a website, but instead of website, they'll look at your Instagram for like 3 seconds to see they'll spend 3-4 seconds, look at what is right on there. So keep all the goofy personal stuff like in the stories, but do as much goofy personal stuff as you want up in the stories, but on your main feed down at the bottom, you want it mostly art, and you can on occasion post a few other things there, but you really want it to immediately show what your work is. And if you do reels, it brings a lot of traffic to your page. So reels are recommended. It is in the algorithm of Instagram that if you do a reel, you get just a lot of people coming to your page. So if you want to, it doesn't matter how many people are following you. It's just about like they also look. So I know that gallerists and people will look on Instagram and see who you know and who you're following. So you also want to follow a lot of people that you like, and of course follow everyone that you know, and follow all the galleries that you want to keep track of. And it's a world of difference here. I'm 53, so when I was like in my 20s, nothing. Like you were in Columbus, that was it. Like, or you're in New York, but there was none of this. Now it's just dispersed. Like I had a video go to Finland. I don't know anyone in Finland. it just was like this weird series of connections. So, and I found out about the show through Instagram because I was watching some other person that got in that show. So if you follow artists you really like who are like a few ticks above you, you like in professionally, you're gonna keep track of where they're entering and doing, and then be okay, so maybe that's a good place for me to show. So it really helps in a lot of ways. And also just mentally be really happy for whatever everybody's posting and all the shows they get, and know that it's just, you're going to get your shows too. And, you know, you can't really compare yourself to what other people are doing on Instagram, because it's just pure luck what happens in the art world a lot, because there's so many good artists. So, but you get, it's a better advantage. Make sure you have a website link. And yeah.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Last question for me before we wrap up is, you know, something else you talked about a lot was the grant writing process, and I know how complex that can be. And even in the chat, we've been discussing that seems to be a really complex process. What are some of your do's and don'ts when writing grants? What are some of your personal do's and don'ts when even searching for grants?
I think you should apply to every grant that you are eligible for, and just do it. So I encourage just doing that grant, unless it's not, and it has to make sense for you. So like, I wouldn't apply for a new media grant, even though I make video, like new media is not necessarily what I do. So it helps if you really understand what you do and know that that's the grant for you. So right now I'm doing a grant for people who have worked 20 years and have 20 years of art practice. That's exactly right for me. And it's the mediums that I do. And I'm going to present exactly what I do and just take a shot. And I know that I'm going to apply for this grant now every year. And then hopefully I'll get it. And if not, it's just something that I do every year and it's on my list. So writing the grant is about clarity. If you know what you want, like in terms of the material grant, just be clear. Like, I've written that grant before, and many times I say things like, I want to make bigger work. It's super simple. I'm not like saving the world. I just literally want to make bigger work, and here's why. Bigger work will help me have bigger shows. If I can make larger scale work, I can apply to these places, XYZ, that I like. It's going to make my work more serious and da-da-da. And then I say, here's $1,000 worth of paint and canvas that I need. It just has to be very clear, and you have to follow the directions. They know, most of the artist grant places know that artists are not grant writers. And so they have, you know, they've made it a little simpler than what people have to do in the not-for-profit world. But you just have to get that grant, follow through, and buy the stuff, and then and then at the end you have to write a report, and the report's not scary either. You just have to say, I did it, I made big work. Here's the work I made. And then if you had some kind of show, you're like, here's the show I had. Or you're like, I just made really good work, and here's the shows I'm going to apply to. Thank you so much, da-da-da. GCAC wants you to write a little letter to some politicians at some point, and you have to tag them in a post or two, social media, and that's all you have to do. So clarity is king. Clarity is queen. Clarity is like the way to go, and don't think that length is going to make it better. You don't want to write too short though, because I know that people have gotten rejected for a lack of information. So you do want to write enough, but no filler. And you can always message me if you're like, I want to write a grant, I don't know what to say. I don't know, I'll message you back. Yeah, and you'll get better at it every time you do it.
Well, great. Thank you so much. It looks like we have wrapped up all of our questions for today. Melissa, I want to thank you for your time today, for being here for our very first Business of Art for 2022. We could all give Melissa a virtual round of applause. That would be wonderful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm gonna head this over to Roman for some closing announcements.
Again, thank you so much. This was incredible. This was so informative. I have a feeling that you will have people reaching back out to you with some follow-up questions. And thank you so much for putting together this presentation too, and for offering to share it with everyone, because I know that that must have taken a lot of time on your part. So thank you for doing that. Also, big thank you to Molly for being a great moderator as always. Really appreciate what you do for Business of Art. Before we let you go, just be sure to check out the Wild Goose Creative calendar at wildgoosecreative.com/events. And you can learn more about upcoming events. We have January Gallery Night, actually. Carry On, A Journey Towards Hope by Westerville-based oil painter Janine Crum. And that's kicking off this Friday, January 14th at the Space, which is located at 188 McDowell Street. Again, this was so great. I realized I forgot to turn on my camera. It was great to see you, Melissa. Great to see and hear from everyone. Thank you for all your questions. And we hope you all have a great day. Stay warm out there.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.